In the last video, we looked at the natural minor scale, also called the pure minor scale. Each key signature has a major key associated with it and a minor key, and we find the minor key by basing it on the 6th degree of the major scale associated with that key signature, and that's called a relative minor. So for example, in no flats and sharps, the major key is C major and the relative minor is A minor. So the key of A minor, the relative major, is C major. So relative minor and relative major refer to the two keys, the major and minor keys, that share the same key signature. In this video, we're going to look at two other variations of the minor scale, the harmonic minor scale and the melodic minor scale. Now, the harmonic minor scale is very similar. It's based on the relative minor of the major key that shares the same key signature, just like the natural minor is. But the difference is that the 7th degree is raised up a half a step. So we have the major 7th in that key rather than the flattened or minor 7th that we have in the natural minor scale. So let's look at our basic example of A minor. And what we would have in this is the G being raised to a G sharp, since the G is the 7th degree of the A minor scale. And it sounds like this. Now, the real unique defining characteristic of this scale is that interval of an augmented second between the 6th and 7th degree. And this is a unique example where we do use the term augmented second instead of minor third or flattened third, because really going from the F to the G sharp is going from the 6th degree of the scale to the 7th degree. So we're really only moving one scale degree up. It's not going up two intervals. It's one interval, but it happens to be an interval of a minor third because of the augmentation. And that gives it a real kind of exotic flavor. It's very unusual to have an interval of a minor third like that in a regular traditional major minor scale without it being some exotic mode. So it gives it kind of an exotic flavor to it. And let's see what that looks like in traditional notation. Here's a score of an A minor scale. And again, there's no key signature because it's in no flats or sharps. It's important because of the nature of the augmented second here and how the scale degrees fall that you notate this correctly with flats and sharps. Now, we've spoken briefly about enharmonic notes, meaning that this can be considered a G sharp or an A flat. So you might be asking yourself, well, how do I know when to use which? When do I notate it as a G sharp or when do I notate it as an A flat? I'm glad you asked that. There's two basic rules of thumb to follow. When you're climbing upwards, ascending, what you do is you use the sharp designation when you're climbing, and when you're descending, you use the flat designation. But the exception is an instance like this, when we're talking about scale degrees, and we're talking about this note being the 7th degree of the scale. Because the 7th degree of an A scale is a G, we notate it as a G, and it's augmented or sharpened, so we need to notate it as a G sharp. If we had it indicated as an A flat, that would be like a diminished root, which isn't the function of this note. It's a raised 7th. So we need to indicate it with the pitch of the 7th degree and the appropriate sharps or flats to indicate the right pitch. So let's listen to that again. And again, just want to reiterate and draw your attention to that interval of an augmented second or minor third, but augmented second to be correct, between the F natural and G sharp. And F natural because that's the flattened 6th degree that we get in both the natural minor and harmonic minor scales. Now here's an example of that same scale, but climbing up to the 9th degree and then back down to 1. And I'm showing you this so that you can use this if you want to practice it along with the exercise B from the scale exercises a couple of videos ago. So here's what this would sound like, and it rounds it out to a nice even bar of each ascending and descending. So same scale, just going up to the 9th degree instead of just up to the octave. Let's look at another example. Here's a C harmonic minor scale. So we have our key signature, 3 flats, because the relative major of C minor is E flat. So there's our key signature. And again, in notating the accidentals here, the A is flattened because that's the 6th degree of the scale. So A flat is naturally indicated by the key signature. And the B is raised up a half tone, so we need to indicate that it's a B natural. And again, there's that interval of an augmented second between the flattened 6th degree and the raised 7th. This is what it sounds like. And here's that same example going up to the 9th degree. Now I want to show you one more example of the D harmonic minor scale, again, just to drive home the point about how the accidentals have to be notated. Here's D harmonic minor. So we have the key signature of 1 flat, since that's the relative major of D is F major, 1 flat. And in case you're wondering, these natural signs are here. They're generated by the software because the previous key signature earlier in the timeline was 3 flats. So it needs to indicate that in the new key, which is technically a new key for this one song as far as the software knows, that these are now natural and there's only 1 flat here. But that's just an aside as to why that's notated like that. Technically, we only need the 1 flat sign here to indicate the key of 1 flat. So let me play this for you. And again, here's another example of how the accidentals have to work. The B is the 6th degree of the scale, and it's flattened in the harmonic minor scale, so that's indicated by the key signature. And the 7th degree is C, and that's raised, so we indicate that as a C sharp. And then descending, same thing, we indicate that as a C sharp because it's the 7th degree instead of, let's say, a D flat. Now here's again the example climbing up to the 9th degree. So that's the harmonic minor scale with that exotic sounding interval of an augmented second between the flatted 6th and augmented 7th degree. Next, I want to move on to the melodic minor scale. Now this is unique in that it's different when it's ascending and descending. The melodic minor scale has the raised 6th and raised 7th in ascending form, but descending it's got the flattened 7th and flattened 6th. So when you're going down the scale, it looks like a natural minor, but when you're going up, it looks like the harmonic minor scale, but the 6th is also raised. So let's look at our example in A minor. And we have here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th degree is raised, 7th degree is raised, and there's the octave. So this really looks like an A major scale except for the 3rd that's flattened. But the way we think of it is the relative major C. It's an A minor with a sharpened 6th and sharpened 7th. But then when we come down, it's got the flattened 7th and flattened 6th, just like the natural minor scale. And here's what it sounds like. And here's the example going up to the 9th degree, again, so it's made easily accessible for practicing with the rhythmic exercises with the drum groove. And let's look at another example of that. Here's E melodic minor. So we have the ascending form raising the 6th degree and the 7th degree like that, and then flattening them coming down. And again, they're indicated as sharps because that's the 6th degree and 7th degree, and they're raised. And here's the same thing going up to the 9th. All right, now what I want to leave you with is a couple of ways of practicing. I've been mentioning that you can practice these minor scales with the exercises from a few videos ago. I'm just going to give you a couple of examples. Here's exercise A, and this is the one that climbs up from 1 to 5 and then back down. So this one is the same for all 3 minor scales since it doesn't involve the 6th and 7th degrees. And you can practice it like this. And so on through the chromatic keys upwards until you get through to the next octave. Here's the next example of the second exercise where we're going up to the 9th degree and then back down. And you can practice this with each of the different types of minor scales. Here I'll show you an example of how it's done with the harmonic minor scale. And so on through all the different keys. And again, practice it 3 different ways: natural minor, harmonic minor, and melodic minor. And if you're feeling bold and adventurous, by all means, practice exercise C with these scales as well. So that's it. Get these under your fingers, and I'll see you for more next video.